Hello, and welcome to Turn to Your Doom, where we travel the many paths and we make the many ends of a choose your own adventure book. Today, I am reading The Mystery of Chimney Rock by Edward Packard and illustrated by Paul Granger. And with me is somebody who is just having issues with like a really mean cat. Art.
Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't like me. It will love me by the end of the summer, though. I will force it. I will force it to love me.
This cat will love me at some point. I mean, Easter was pretty afraid of people, but now he loves me, so sometimes it works.
Oh, well, that's a boy cat.
It's true.
That's a boy cat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Alex
Boy cats
pretty,
are easy mode.
Yeah, Alex was pretty grumpy towards the end, but she still loved my mom.
Yeah. Well, the cats always have a person.
Yeah. My cousin had a cat named Dakota who was like so mean to everybody, like hissing, screaming, growling, but loved my cousin.
Yeah, that's a fun thing about cats. They always love one person.
Yeah, and then polar opposite to that cat was the other cat, Sophie, who was a bowling ball of love. Is the best way I can describe her. But yeah, we're reading Chimney Rock, The Mystery of Chimney Rock. I'm reading the 1982 version, because it has not been republished. And we're stuck in a haunted house. There's a really mean cat. There's a really mean old lady. There's a maid. Our cousin Jane is somewhere in here. We've already had some endings, like we fell down some stairs and cracked our skull open. That was fun.
I would like to point out that we are breaking and entering into a house. So like, if the old lady is mean, I think she has a reason to.
Yeah.
Like I know she's supposed to be dead. Like, if this is just a empty house, that's fine, whatever. But
yeah, there was an ending where we got turned into a mouse and eaten. There was an ending where we let a cop be devoured by the curse of the house. There was an ending where we just said, the curse is over, and the curse was over. That simple, as it turns out. Maybe that's why they're not broken more often, is people don't realize that you can just say. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so we're going to be continuing, we're going to be picking up, we just got boxed in by the cat. And so we had some options. We could either close our eyes, try and gather some strength, which didn't end super well, or we could threaten the cat. So we're gonna try threatening the cat this time.
Yeah, we're gonna pull out a knife. I read some of the Redwall books. I know that that mice can fight, so
oh my God.
They can be mighty warriors.
It's prison rules. So she also gets a knife.
Well, she no fair. She has so many knives attached to her hands.
Plus an extra one. Oh my gosh.
I feel like we should get a handicap a little bit.
Yeah, really. Unless we can tape a knife to each of our fingers, we deserve a handicap. Alright, so when you shout, the cat hisses at you, jumps down, and scampers out of the room. You breathe a sigh of relief. You run out of the room and wander through a winding corridor that leads to a narrow flight of stairs. You start down them, reasoning that these are probably the back stairs to the kitchen, and this is the best route out of the house. I gotta go back to page 25. So far away. There we go. You continue down the stairs. As you take your first step into the kitchen, you see a man peering through a window. He is a large, heavy man, and his square jaw and squinty eyes give him a sinister appearance. He surveys the room, and his gaze rests upon you. It is Jervis, the caretaker. Although you stand motionless in the shadows, you are certain he has seen you. In a moment, he leaves the window. He must be coming around to the back door. If you try to evade him by hiding somewhere else in the house, turn to page 48. If you decide it would be better to go to the door and meet him, turn to page 49.
I mean, we're more likely to give him a heart attack and he'll just die if we hide. Let's do the first one.
The first one? Okay. I'm running out of bookmarks.
That's why you should start writing it down. In a paper.
I refuse.
All
right.
Don't look like a fucking conspiracy theorist.
If you try to... Okay, so we're going to try and evade him. All right. Page 48.
We're going to do it with the knife that we had as a mouse.
You run quickly through the dining room, through the large musty library, and on to the huge living room hall. Suddenly, you hear a noise from the dining room. You race up the main staircase and stand in the upstairs hall, listening. Thump, thump, thump. You hear footsteps following you up the stairs. Yet, when you look towards the stairs, there is no one there. Now you are aware of the thumping of your heart. Perhaps that's what you heard. Or is it something else? The ghost of Mr. Bigley. But, of course, ghosts do not exist. Then you hear the thumping sound again, this time from down the hall. Across the hall, you notice a large cedar closet. Further down, you see a door slowly opening. If you duck into the cedar closet and observe from there, turn to page 90. If you walk to the open door, turn to page 91.
Yeah, let's treat this like an Outlast game, and
hide in the closet.
It doesn't matter if they see you, like, right around the corner. Getting into the closet, as long as they're not in the room with you, you can hide.
I like it. You step into the cedar closet and swing the door half shut so that you can watch through the crack between the hinges. The other door slowly opens as if someone has come out. You see no one, but you feel a soft draft of air. The door to your closet slams shut. You try to open it, but you're locked in. You yell for help, but beyond the double-thick walls of the cedar closet, your voice sounds like nothing more than the moaning of the wind. It is a big closet with enough air to last you 2 or 3 hours. The end.
Did they... Okay, I don't care how good of a fucking woodworker you are. There's no way you made a hermetically sealed cabinet.
What?
Like, wood is porous enough that air would go through.
What?
Like, do they have, like, O-rings around all the screws and nails?
I'm so confused. How do you suffocate in a closet? Whatever.
I think if you're a dumbass, you do. I think you just trick yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
little do we know, the doors are lined with O-rings, so no air can escape.
Like, there's a gasket around the door. Also, every single corner is like has like caulk, like that's like perfectly lined. And there's plastic and metal layers inside.
Someone just took silicone and went all the way around.
Like, there's, you're actually inside of a welded box right now.
Yeah.
You thought it was cedar. You're dumb, and you don't know what cedar looks like.
If we try you'll like the other ending, the other path that we do. So instead, if we walk to the slowly opening door, you walk to the slowly opening door. As it opens wide, you feel a blast of air. You look inside. The window is broken. A strong breeze is blowing in. Then you realize it was only the wind that opened the door. You laugh out loud, but stop abruptly as you hear a cry from the hall. You step through the doorway. There before you, lying on the floor, clutching at his chest, is a policeman. "My heart!" he cries. A moment later, he is dead. A few feet away.
It's like that wood cop that died a couple weeks ago because he shot a shotgun.
Yeah. A moment later, he is dead. A few feet away at the top of the stairs, Michael is standing open-mouthed. "It was you," he says. "I thought I was a ghost. And I guess the policeman did, too." The end.
God, okay. If I ever get an email from that Officer Down Memorial page, email list. By the way, if you want to hear about cops dying, it's a really good thing. Good resource. Officer Down Memorial page. You just get but I really want a cop to die from fright, like within the next couple of weeks. I
Oh
feel like it'd
my,
really help the Halloween spirit.
oh my God. It's so ridiculous. This book really said a cab. Twice now a policeman has died or disappeared without a trace.
Well,
All right.
that house is gonna be shot at for by all the police officers now.
All
They're
right.
gonna make anti-housing laws
Oh my God.
to protect cops.
Anti-ghost laws. All right. So if we go back and instead of avoiding Jervis, we decide to go meet him at the door. If you try and hide, Jervis will probably find you easily enough. It seems best to meet him and admit you were exploring the house without permission. You turn to the back door and you twist the knob back and forth. Frantically, you push and pull at the door, but it will not open. Jervis has locked you in. You must find another way out. You walk along a passageway that leads to a large room. The floor is covered with oriental rugs, and the walls are lined with antique oil paintings. A grandfather clock slowly ticks the minutes away, its long brass pendulum swinging back and forth. Suddenly, a voice from upstairs shatters the silence. Melissa! Melissa! You start up the stairs, determined to find out who it is. When you reach the top, everything is silent. Then you hear a cough from one of the bedrooms. The door is ajar. You look in and see a very old woman sitting in a rocking chair knitting. Come in, come in, she calls to you in a cheery voice. Are you Mrs. Bigley? You ask. The woman smiles and laughs. No, no, she says. I'm her sister, Mrs. Crim. Mrs. Bigley is my cat. If you leave, turn to page 99. If you stay and ask more questions, turn to page 100.
Let's stay.
What do you want? Oh, you want to stay and ask her questions?
Let's stay. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I thought you were dead. Well, it sure looks like you're dead.
Yeah, I have so many questions. What do you mean she's your cat? But I thought
Mrs.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
But I thought Mrs.
Go
Bigley was a person, not a cat, you exclaim. Indeed, she is a person, Mrs. Crim says cheerfully. When she is not a cat. Mrs. Crim, I'm begging you. Stop playing games with me. You don't mean that she can change into a cat, you ask. Let's just say that Mrs. Bigley leads a double life. You see, she is a witch, Mrs. Crim replies. A witch, you exclaim. She beckons you closer. You are young, she says, and I am old. You must understand that there are things that people don't talk about, that you never learn about them except through experience. Sometimes horrible experience. Yeah, like when somebody transitioned back in like the 1930s.
Yeah.
They were just like somebody would just go away for a while and then they come back and then their parents were like, look at our beautiful son who is always here.
Yeah,
we never had a daughter ever.
You could just have like back in the day, you could just have a random family member like pop up that you never talked about.
It's true.
That apparently you love to death.
Like, and everybody else's family would be like, oh, yeah, I guess you had a son this whole time and we just didn't know. Problem solved.
Like, when do you have this one? You know.
Yeah.
That one time. Remember?
Yeah. And we never had a daughter ever. You were just, you were confused. You know what? I'd be like, yeah, you're so right. What do you mean, you ask? Mrs. Crim fixes her steely gray eyes on you and waits for you to meet her gaze before continuing. When my sister was a little girl, she wanted to be a cat. She had a cat of her own that she named the cat Melissa, after herself. After the cat died, my sister missed her so much that she would often pretend that she was the cat. Gradually, my sister's personality changed. She began to act more and more like a cat, and even to look like a cat. Then one day, suddenly Miss Crim looks up, but her face is taut with fear. Run to the window and jump, she cries. Jump for your life. You have no time to think. Throw open the window and jump, landing on the ground with a terrible thud. A shooting, stabbing plane flashes through your left arm. Michael and a policeman come running up. You have a broken arm, the policeman tells you a moment later. No fucking duh. That marks you as another victim of the curse of Chimney Rock. The end. You just watched me jump out of a 2-story window onto my arm. Yes, of course it's broken. God.
That was a dumb ending. What the fuck was that?
I don't know. There's no explanation. Just she's like, you better run.
My sister wanted to be a cat, and it was before Twitch, so she couldn't monetize it. If it was nowadays, she could have opened up one of those OnlyFans and made hundreds of dollars off of it, but
no. She had to go to the burlesque and do it there.
I wonder if there was, like, people into, like, cat girls before, like, they got super popular, like, because of anime.
I have no doubt.
I don't know. There has to be like antique furries. Like, I knew there were like furries in like the 70s and stuff because we have like zines. Of it. But like, what did the super old furries do? Now I want to know what like a furry from the 1800s did. What the fuck did they do?
They probably made really elaborate. I feel like I've seen this. Like they made like really elaborate costumes out of like animal furs. I'm sure.
I don't know. I won't believe it until I see a documentary on it.
I mean,
because everything that we do in nowadays only existed when I was aware of it. Before,
obviously. So. All right.
Nothing outside of my room is real until I see it.
That's why I don't believe in air.
Yeah. I also don't believe in outer space.
Or glass sometimes.
People are just like, people fly into the air and like into the darkness and front, like that I see above me, and like they see things like I can't see it, so it doesn't exist. So there's only light.
In the same vein as not believing in glass sometimes, screen doors on occasion as well. Like when it's really dark out. All right, so if we decide to just leave, which seems kind of rude, you wonder whether or not this is Mrs. Bigley. If it is, she must be crazy. You step out in the hall and are surprised to hear the sound of someone playing a piano in a room down the hall. You go to investigate. And now I gotta turn to page 69.
Nice! Yeah!
As you approach the door to the music room, the sounds change. You hear a jumble of notes as a small child were banging on the keyboard. You pause a moment. The door is slightly ajar. Instead of knocking, you look through the crack with one eye. In the middle of the room is a grand piano, made of ebony and inlaid gold. A large black cat is walking back and forth on the keys. It must be Melissa. Sensing your presence, the cat stops and stares intently at the crack in the door. You cannot be sure whether or not it knows you are watching it. There is no sign of anyone in the room. Who else was playing the piano? Must have left. If you enter the room and approach the cat, turn to page 62. If you go back towards the stairs, turn to page 63.
So, I couldn't make the dad joke. I was going to say, like, why would it only be slightly ajar? Like, if the door's ajar, then it should be 100% ajar. But no. Let's do the first one.
Go towards the cat.
Yeah.
You enter the room.
I'm going to at least hold my hand out to see if it sniffs it.
Yeah.
You know?
You enter the room and walk towards Melissa. She continues to stare at you intently, as if she could read your mind. She is clearly not an ordinary cat. She seems like a creature in a dream. As you get closer to her, she opens her mouth.
I'm gonna walk to the cat. Okay, I'm sorry.
As you get closer to her, she opens her mouth as if to laugh. Suddenly, she leaps off the piano and patters towards the door you just entered. She stops and stares intently at you again, as if daring you to pick her up. If you pick Melissa up, turn to page 110. If you follow her out of the room, turn to page 85.
I mean, you shouldn't try to pick up a strange cat. just in general, I'm gonna follow it.
All right, page 85.
Especially if the cat seems like it's like I don't know. I don't know how else to say this. But especially if the cat's like doing like like come hither like
Yeah,
thing. Like I
yeah,
feel like don't try to pick it up because first off, it's a trap. It's just a trap. And also, or it's an evil witch that's currently a cat.
yeah.
Uh, well,
All right.
maybe don't.
You follow Melissa down the hall, around the corner, and along a narrow passageway. The dirty white plaster walls are chipped, and the floor is strewn with bits of plaster and other debris. At the end of the hall is a staircase leading up to an attic. Melissa starts up it, and you follow. When you get to the top, she runs between your legs and darts down the stairs again. Before you can even turn around, the door slams shut in front of you. You are locked in. You yell for help, but there is no answer. Hours go by. Every few minutes, you yell and pound on the door. Darkness falls, and you sit helplessly, wondering if you will ever be rescued. Finally, you fall asleep. When you awaken, if you are not still dreaming, the room seems to have expanded 100-fold, and it is entirely empty, except for a few yards away, sleeping quietly, is a mouse the same size as you. The end.
Yeah.
And then there's a
Okay.
cute illustration of a little sweeping mouse
Okay. You know?
going honk shoo, honk shoo.
Yeah. Real honk shoe pilled over there.
Yeah.
I mean,
So if we try
like,
and pick
the
Melissa,
endings aren't like bad. They're just like they don't. I feel like we're not earning them necessarily. Like I don't know. Like it doesn't seem like it seems like the endings aren't like direct consequences most of the time. Like
ooh,
they're just like and then this happened type endings.
yeah. Oh, okay, so the next part leads us to a bunch of different endings.
Okay.
So if we pick Melissa up, you pick Melissa up and walk swiftly downstairs and out of the house. Michael and Jane are waiting in the rear yard. When they see you, they come running. Right behind them is Jervis, the caretaker. I always knew someone would lift the curse, Jervis says. You are the one who has done it, and I'm the one who will get the reward. Jervis starts to take the cat from you, but it bristles and hisses at him. When he backs away, the cat nestles down again in your arms. Melissa is choosing you as its new owner. She's yours to keep if you want her, he says as he turns abruptly and walks back towards the cottage. Do you think there really is a reward? Jane asks. If there is, why should Jervis get it? Michael adds. And you are wondering the same thing yourself. If you decide to go to Jervis's cottage and ask what he meant about the reward, turn to page 111. If you decide to go back with Michael and Jane to their house and leave Melissa at Chimney Rock, turn to page 112. If you decide to go back with Michael and Jane to their house and take Melissa along with you, turn to page 113.
That's too many.
So we can
I'm
go
getting
to
choice
Jervis's
paralysis.
cottage, ask him about the reward. We can go back with Michael and Jane, but not bring Melissa with us. Or we can go with Michael and Jane and bring Melissa with us.
First, let's just go down the line.
Okay. The first one ends. Is an ending anyway. So I'm going to find out what he's talking about. You say to your cousins, and you let Melissa down and walk towards the cottage. Michael and Jane follow. For a while, your knocking goes unanswered, but finally Jervis opens the door. And at first, he doesn't seem anxious to talk to you. But when you persist with your questioning, he explains that he was promised a reward if he would live in the cottage and take care of the cat until it chose a new owner. You ended the curse, but don't think you're going to get any reward, he shouts as he slams the door in your face. The three of you search for Melissa, but she's nowhere to be seen. It's getting late, so you start home, pausing just long enough to take a last look at Chimney Rock. But when you do, there's nothing to be seen, except a meadow filled with wildflowers. The curse of Chimney Rock itself was no more than a dream. But what is not a dream is the large black cat walking towards you out of the meadow and then brushing up against your legs, as if to announce that you are its new owner, for better or for worse. The end. We get a kitty cat.
Oh, that's nice.
Alright. So
Yeah, I bet your parents would love that. You'd be like, "Yeah, I found a cat. I'm keeping it." I bet they would love that.
yeah. Honestly, my parents would be like, okay.
Where'd you find this one?
Yeah, they'd act long, tortured, like this is the greatest burden they've had to bear, but they wouldn't mind, honestly. All right. So if we decide to go back with our cousins but not bring Melissa for some reason, I don't get it. It leads to 2 choices, but both of those choices lead to endings. So
okay.
You let Melissa cool Melissa down and shoo her away. She looks at you reproachfully and scampers off into the woods. You and your cousins head back to their house. That evening, you ask your aunt and uncle whether they have heard anything about the reward for ending the curse of Chimney Rock. Your uncle laughs at the idea, but says if anyone knows, it would be the Bigley family lawyer, Gilliam Prim. If you decide to consult Gilliam Prim before ending your visit, turn to page 114. If you decide to end your visit and have nothing further to do with Chimney Rock, turn to page 116.
Let's go to the doc. I mean, let's go to the lawyer.
Yeah. The next morning, after a long wait, you are admitted to the musty office of Gilliam Prim, Esquire. You tell him everything that happened, and when you finish, you ask whether there is a reward for ending the curse of Chimney Rock. Mr. Prim tilts back in his black leather chair, puffs on his pipe before replying. Well, he finally says, it is true I heard Jervis that he would get a reward of $1,000 if he stayed in the cottage and fed the cat until it died or chose a new owner. I've been following the instructions in Mrs. Bigley's will, but there is another reward Jervis doesn't know about. Mrs. Bigley's will also provides that if the cat chooses a new owner who is willing to take the cat, then that person will become the owner of the cat and of Chimney Rock. By the way, you may not realize it, Mr. Prim continues, but now that curse is ended, Chimney Rock is worth $250,000. Suddenly you realize that if you had not let Melissa go, that's how much it would be worth. The end. So if we decide to just leave, the next morning you bid your cousins goodbye and thank them for entertaining you. A few weeks later you get a letter from Jane saying that Melissa has vanished completely. Jervis has moved away, and Chimney Rock is to be turned into an apartment house. You wonder whether the people who live there will feel the power of the curse of Chimney Rock. The end.
Okay.
All right, and then the last couple endings. We turn to page 113 if we decide to go with our cousins and take Melissa with us, because why wouldn't you? Melissa seems...
I mean, why aren't you taking the cat that desperately wants to stay with you? You should keep it long enough to at least make sure it has a home.
Yeah.
Even if you can't take care of it.
Yeah, exactly. Melissa seems grateful when you bring her back to your cousin's house and give her a bowl of warm milk. Tomorrow, your visit with Michael and Jane will end, and you must decide whether or not to take Melissa home with you. If you leave Melissa with Michael and Jane, turn to page 120. If you take her home with you, turn to page 121.
Let's take it home with us.
Yeah. Well, let's do the one ending because they're both just like a paragraph.
Oh, okay.
So if we leave her with them, next morning you thank your cousins and say goodbye. A couple of weeks later, you receive from Jane a most amazing letter. She says that Mrs. Bigley's will provided that if the cat chose a new owner and was willing to keep it, such a person would become the owner of the cat and of Chimney Rock. Because they kept Melissa, Michael and Jane now own Chimney Rock. And because of the witch's curse is ended, it's worth $250,000. The end. Oh, and so yeah, the next one is just that same thing, except you have her.
Okay.
Next morning, with a suitcase in one hand and a cat carrier in the other, you thank your cousins and bid them goodbye. A couple of weeks later, you get the most amazing letter from Gilliam Prim, and it says the same thing. That because we kept Melissa and she likes us, we own Chimney Rock, and it's worth $250,000. And so are we. Moral of the story is cat adoption is the ultimate gift.
Yeah. Let's try to get like one more ending.
All right.
I chose.
I might have found one.
They don't want to go.
I might have found one. Okay. One sec. All right. Okay. There we go. Okay. So this is going all the way back to when we find Melissa standing on the grand piano, and we have the option to go into the room and which led to a whole bunch of other stuff, or we can turn back around and go back to the stairs, which you want to pick second option.
Okay.
You walk back towards the stairs and turn down another hall leading to some bedrooms, the furthest of which may connect to a music room. At the end of the hall is a large mirror with an ornate gold frame. As you approach it, you see your own reflection, and behind it the silhouette of a tall, elderly woman in black. Even in the dim light, you can see her burning green eyes fixed on you. They seem to pin you to your place with a power so strong you cannot move. You stand helplessly as she walks towards you. You know you must force yourself to act. If you break the silence by talking to her, turn to page 86. If you run past her and get down the stairs, turn to page 88.
Yeah, let's juke this old woman. She can't do jack shit.
Juke her. Pulling a fast one on Granny. You turn and try to run past Mrs. Bigley, but you feel yourself falling. You look towards her as you try to regain your balance, but you can't take your eyes off of her. Your head hits the woodwork. Not hard, but hard enough to make you dizzy.
She's a total gilf.
She just stuck out her foot and tripped you. You can hardly keep your balance again, but you start to run down the stairs towards the front door. I have to turn to page 48. Wait. Oh, no. This was the wrong one. I'm sorry. So if we try to talk to her, that one actually leads to two other endings that we had, where you can either get stuck in the closet or you can scare the cop to death. It leads to those two endings if you go back. You try to run past her.
Okay.
But if you try to talk to her, you roll around and face her. Mrs. Bigley, you say loudly. How nice it is to have visitors, she replies in a raspy voice. You've been in the house quite a while, haven't you? But you've been running around as quietly as a mouse. I hardly knew where to find you. Well, now you're here. Come with me to the pantry. I've some very good cheese and crackers I know you will like. And we got to turn to page 37. You go to the pantry with Mrs. Bigley. Some crackers and cheese are already on the table. You decide to eat one cracker and no more. As soon as you take your first bite, you feel dizzy. Just one.
You're not going to trick me, old lady.
Immediately eats the food she gives you. That would be me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm falling for the Fey trap every time.
Every time. They're like, free food. But be careful if you eat and I'm already putting it all in my mouth. Your vision is blurred, but as well as you can tell, everything around you looks as if it's growing in size. The fuzzy outline of Mrs. Bigley seems to be towering above you. You wonder if you have been poisoned, but you can't think straight. You jump down from your chair and run as fast as you can out of the dining room into the study. You hear sounds behind you. Mrs. Bigley must be chasing you. You dare not look back. For an instant, you realize you should not be afraid of an old woman, but you are afraid. Ahead of you is a small passageway you didn't notice before. It looks almost like a tunnel, an escape route. You scamper inside. You have to crawl, but gradually it seems to get larger, much larger, so that you can almost stand up. Suddenly you realize that your surroundings have not been getting larger, but you have been getting smaller, much, much smaller. You try to stand up, but you can't seem to keep your balance, standing on your hind legs. You try to cry out, but your brain can only think, run, eat, hide. Like the mouse you are. The end.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think we got most, if not all, of the endings. Actually,
did we get all the endings where you turn into a mouse?
I believe we did.
It feels like they really like that ending.
Yes, we got all the endings where you turn into a mouse.
They're just like, man, this one's a banger. I'm gonna just use it 1,000,000 times.
Oh nope. There's one we. Oh no, never mind. That's an ending where somebody else turns into a mouse. But yeah, I think we got all the ones where we turn into a mouse. And a couple where Jane also is a mouse. But yeah, we got the good ending, like the true ending as well.
Yeah.
You get a new cat and also a house, which is pretty sweet, not gonna lie.
Especially in this economy.
Yeah, a house that's $250,000. Holy shit. Actually,
First
in
off,
this,
a house that's worth $250,000 would be worth like maybe like 20 million
I was gonna
nowadays.
say in our current age, I feel like yeah, this would be at least 10 million, maybe more, with how big it is.
And also, you'd probably be able to sell the house for even more, because it was quote unquote haunted. And haunted houses are actually being sold for more now
Oh yeah, in
because
in
people are.
in Connecticut, they do have that kind of a market where you can sell a haunted house labeled as haunted. I mean, you know that the curse is ended, but they don't need to know that.
No, they don't need to do it at all.
Yeah.
Just like don't fix the pipes.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Well,
Oh, put a little speaker with infrasound.
there you
In
go.
there, it goes off like maybe goes off like randomly, like between every 24 to 80 hours or so. So like they're randomly hearing it. Yeah, like
There
you
you
have to be
go.
careful though, because sometimes the irradiated yetis will go crazy and try to rip apart your camping group. Oh God. Oh man, that's such a niche thing, but I love mentioning it. My Dyatlov Pass theory is that most people say, "Oh, it's radiation," because it's because apparently they did nuclear testing at some point in the 50s. There, some people are saying it's Yetis. Some people saying it's infrasound. Some people are just saying it was like real fucking cold, and like this group just like they died from something, and it was irradiated yetis that are crazy
Yeah.
because of the infrasound.
Yeah. Obviously.
Everyone knows.
Yeah, what else could it be?
It definitely could have been like just like regular psychosis.
Yeah,
You know?
the crazy things that happen in your mind when you experience hypothermia. No, just
Yeah.
not.
That's why the clothes was on the ground, because people definitely don't take their clothes off when they're getting hypothermia.
Yeah,
That's not a symptom of hypothermia.
and their bodies definitely weren't picked over by animals, and that's why they were like missing pieces and parts.
Well, that's also why, because the Yetis were getting a little cold, and they needed to get the jackets, like their jackets and
Yeah,
stuff on.
and then
But unfortunately, they were too small, because they're
I was
Yetis.
gonna say, then they realized the jackets don't fit them, so they just left them there.
Yeah.
I love that visual of a Yeti trying on a person-sized jacket.
Well, it was after they realized, like, hey, we need to just cover our ears for a little bit for the
Yeah,
infrasound, and like they got a little bit of like cognizance back. Okay, well we got off on a thing.
yeah. This was fun. I'm glad that we got the good endings.
Yeah.
Where we get a new cat. That's mainly what I'm jazzed about. Is a cat.
I feel like you can't count all the mouse endings as different endings.
One of them was like halfway. I'm pretty sure the text was exactly the same. But yeah. So that was fun. I'm gonna try and get the Ghost Hunters book next when I read. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, just remember, if a cat really loves you, it's your cat now. You don't have a choice. The pact
It doesn't
has been
matter if it's
sealed.
someone else's in their house.
Yeah.
That they've had for 10 years.
That cat is yours now. Because you might get a house worth $250,000 out of it. Anyways, yeah, this has been Turn to Your Doom. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, Mr. the Missile.